some questions on the other side of this one as well. Let's dig into the matchup on the surface as we go Philadelphia versus LA now. This is a run team in Philadelphia and one that's struggling to find their identity in the pass game. When you look at this matchup, the first place your eyes go is where?
Slowing down Saquon Barkley. Because to your point, Saquon had an unbelievable game for himself as an individual and for me as well because I had him in my fantasy lineup. So I was smiling. I really remember that game vividly. Secondly, when you look at not slowing down Saquon Barkley, we also saw A.J. Brown got going, over 100 yards through the air receiving, and then a passing touchdown. So can they slow down either or? Well, if you look at what we saw in the first meeting for the Eagles against Green Bay, they didn't really target A.J. Brown, but they still got Saquon Barkley going. In tonight's game, yes, the Rams dominated, but they had some issues in the running game from the Vikings. So they got to find a way to slow up, neutralize Saquon, and put more pressure on the passing game. And then when you look at what was an issue for the offense for the Rams, they could not protect Matthew Stafford. I think they had around 5 sacks. They could not sustain any drives. 0 for 8 on third down opportunities. Can they correct those wrongs? Because to your point, Joe, gave us a cool nugget about the job the offensive linemen have done with the Rams in protecting Matthew Stafford. Haven't surrendered a sack since December 1st.
Gave up a couple in the second half here, but,
yeah. But before
December
then,
1 to those 2 sacks, you're looking at a month and a half of keeping your guy upright.
Because before then, that November outing, they could not protect Matthew Stafford at all. So which side can hold up to the building? Will we see better football coming from the Rams, or will we see the same things coming from the Philadelphia Eagles? That's what I'm watching.
Yeah, it's a great matchup because I love rematches, right? We saw the offensive line for the Rams not have a lot of success against the Eagles in the first matchup, right? So this matchup, this time around, you got to worry about Jalen Carter that's playing outstanding.
Yes.
Nolan Smith is playing outstanding. You also look at, on the Rams side of things, defensively, how can they be gap sound, be gap disciplined? The highlight we had coming in, it felt like they were a man short all game long. Nobody was in the C gap, no safety help, nothing back deep to help stop Saquon Barkley. But if you're Philly and you kind of know, hey, the Rams are going to try to come in and try to stop the run, like overdo it, right? So we got to be a little bit more physical in our passing game. And I'm talking about A.J. Brown. Quick hitters, allow him to use his physicality to break a couple tackles because they do have a size advantage, the Eagles receivers versus the secondary of the Rams. And on the Rams side, you want to kind of slow this game down, shrink the ball game, force the Eagles to play discipline, assignment sound consistently. And lastly, if you're the Eagles, it's about getting off to a fast start.
And another thing, too, when you watch the Rams tonight, before leaving the game with the injury, Tyler Higbee was set up to have a really, really good night, right? And he provides another element in the passing game. He's kind of substituting, you know, what they're not getting from Cooper Kupp. So it's like Puka Nacua and then Tyler Higbee. Not knowing his status, hopefully he's prepared to go because they would need a guy like Tyler Higbee to be involved in this passing game if they expect to have success for 4 quarters against the Eagles defense.
It's sort of the mental gymnastics that we're doing to make it all make sense, but as it goes, the further you make it, the better you have to be. And I think both the Rams, as odd as it is to say after that lopsided win, and the Eagles need to be better if they're going to get to any sort of ultimate goal at the end of the season. Certainly the Eagles, who went 2 full quarters without completing a forward pass.
Think about that.
In that matchup. The defense was great. I want to get to the defense in a second, but I also want to get back to this performance by Saquon. It was 255. It was a franchise record. It was 9.8 per tote, but if you take those 2 home runs out of it, Emery, this is the gymnastics I'm talking about. If you take those 2 home runs out of it, it's really just a 100-yard game. Now, he is a home run hitter and would have hit another one in the wild card round if not for, you know, that head on his shoulders to be mindful and slide down. So how do you limit the big run if you're looking at this guy knowing what he's capable of?
Well, you have to really reset the line of scrimmage. And what we saw tonight from Jared Verse gives you confidence that you can do that because he's an excellent bull rusher. He can play with power. He can set that physical edge. And if you're able to do that, you kind of funnel everything back inside. You want the Eagles to play a downhill game and not have full carte blanche of the entire line of scrimmage. So if you could force him to play downhill, that gives your linebackers a chance to make the tackles running right at these backs. But it's not just Saquon you have to worry about. It's Kenneth Gainwell and his slippery nature, and it's Jalen Hurts' second game since coming back. So he may be lathered up. And he looked a little bit fresh last week running the football, last game, their playoff game, running the football, making guys miss. So now you have a 3-prong attack running the football, but it's about making sure you're a gap sound, gap discipline, and reset that line of scrimmage. You got to play a more physical game up front against Philly.
Gap integrity is going to be overly important for the Rams because if you have two players sticking their head in the same gap, that's when he's going to hit his head on the goalpost.
One cut and gone.
And that's Saquon Barkley. So playing with the right gap integrity, swarming to the football, and tackling. Because one thing about Saquon Barkley, we talk about how explosive he is, but we don't talk about his ability to not allow one person to get him down. He's very, very strong at the point of attack when you're trying to go get him. You have to swarm to the football. Coach once told all of us, we need to go out and play ant defense. We're like, what is ant defense? You ever see ants attack some street crumbs?
Never do nothing alone.
You see a bunch of them going to go get that street crumb. They got to go play ant defense against Saquon Barkley. One man is not going to get the job done. See a piece of that street crumb on the street and go swarm and go get it.
That's the whole donut. That ain't a street crumb. You better bring everything if you want to slow down Saquon. The way he is running the ball, the way they're blocking it up front, those guys in front of him, and what that defense is doing cannot be overlooked. LA's offense, I think, is where they're going to have to be sharper in that matchup. Let's look for a sharp play. 5.5 the number, early line. Obviously, you reserve your right to move off this pick. Not a full game pick, but where are you leaning right now, Emery? Philly laying that 5.5 at home.
I feel comfortable to lay this 5 with Philly based off the last matchup. But what's interesting is that Jake Elliott had 3 field goals. That's 9 points right there, and that was huge in that game. So him having a good start. We saw him miss a field goal in their first playoff game, and now if he can just continue to build on what he did against this Rams team, granted it was indoors, now you'll be playing in Philly, which could be cold, but confident-wise, I like the way this Eagles defense is playing. I think they're playing hungry. I think they can get after this run game. They looked a little bit banged up now, playing this long playoff game. I like the Eagles here.
Matt,
right now,
you called. I'm sorry to jump you, but you called him the best coach in the NFC. Yeah, you got to give the best coach in the NFC the benefit of the doubt here.
He deserved me calling him that. I didn't just say it just cause. But I'm going to take the Rams receiving 5.5, and here's why. When it comes to the coaching matchup, I trust Sean McVay more so than Nick Sirianni, even though Nick Sirianni is coaching the more talented team. When it comes to the overall chemistry on the offense, something about the Philadelphia Eagles offense that we watched last week against Green Bay. They won, but you walk away asking what is wrong, what is going on. So when you talk about potential, just not having the gelling there that you need, that might surface once again. And the issue for Philadelphia throughout this great year they've had has been getting off to fast starts. The slow start has really hindered them. And it hindered them a little bit against Green Bay. Remember, it was a fumble that led to the first touchdown, and after that, they were stagnant in terms of their drives. Yes, so can the Rams take advantage of those potential slow starts from the Eagles, and which kind of game plan Sean McVay will have in store? I believe he will have a great game plan in place, because one thing I know about Sean McVay, it's hard to beat him 2 times in the same year. One game happened in the regular season, the next game happened in the playoffs. But the type of coach he is, he doesn't lose to a lot of teams twice in the same year, especially a non-divisional team. So right now, I take the Rams getting 5.5.
Hard to picture Matthew Stafford throwing you 3 the way that Jordan Love did. So gonna have to be cleaner football, as said, on both sides of this matchup, but it's one we can't wait for. Here's a look at some of the bullet points around it. 2-1 historically in the playoffs between these two. Last time they met a while back now. Barkley, 255. You got 256. HQ back at it. Let's hear from Sean McVay post-game.
Respect for Kevin and his group. They did an outstanding job this year. They were a really tough outfit, and I thought, Matthew was outstanding from the jump. We put the ball in his hands. Thought he really did a great job of orchestrating 2 scoring drives right from the jump, and then really defensively, you can't say enough about them. Getting 9 sacks, getting the defensive touchdown for Verse. I thought Ethan Evans was outstanding again. Really proud of him. And then, Josh Carty's been automatic. So we played the game a little bit differently towards the latter part of it. When you end up having a lead, you're really just working up against the clock, where we were a little bit more conservative. But I thought our offensive line did an excellent job against that front. And I thought it was a complete game where, you're playing to win and try to advance. And what a great challenge we've got next week at Philly.
The last time you played, to have your defensive line the subject of so many questions this offseason. Aaron's retirement, Aaron's in the stands looking on.
That was cool.
What did you see from them tonight? How did they channel a very emotional time into setting the
I think these guys are all about the right stuff, Jordan. I think you know that as well. Kobe Turner's leadership up front. I think, Chris Shula, the defensive coaches, Giff Smith, A.C. Carter, Joe Caniglio, thought we had a great rush plan. And I thought ultimately it's always about the players bringing it to life and having a real understanding of what we were trying to get done, what was the intent. They have really played excellent football as of late. They're peaking at the right time. They're not showing any of that youth that you would think, as you play your 18th game in the, in this season. But I'm proud of them. They came through in a big way, and they were instrumental in us being able to advance.
How's the last time you played at this stadium? You stood up there and said that nothing positive.
Why would you remind me of this?
How much have you seen?
Now we're having a lot better memory.
Yeah, how much growth have you seen?
Yeah, I think a lot. You go back to week 2, that seems like an eternity ago. But what I think is great is all those scars were necessary to be able to get us to the point that we are today. Even some of the tough losses, being 1-4, I think there's a resilience, there's a grit, there's just, you get those, you learn from those challenging setbacks, and that's where real growth can occur if people take the right approach.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay của mình sẽ là video gì đây? Nhiều quá, không biết là